Hey, um, well, this is my second video and this video is going to be about ser- serial killer, named Sean Vincent Gillis. He was a Baton Rouge serial killer. In fact, he's a serial killer who operated in my state. So I was just going to do something like that. So, anyways, let's just getting down into the video. Um, anyways, while I'm pulling up all of my stuff and notes that I have kept, anyways, Sean Vincent Gillis was born on June 24th, 1962, and he is an American serial killer, rapist, and necrophile who stalked and murdered 8 Louisiana women from 1994 to 2002. Gillis was born on June 4th, or 24th, 1962 in Baton Rouge, and he was raised in southern Louisiana. He was the son of Young Oak and Norman Gillis. His father abandoned the family soon after birth. Gillis was raised by his mother and grandparents. A more violent side to Gillis' personality began to surface during adolescence, behaving with anger and rage. A neighbor once reported she heard a loud banging noise at 3 a.m. and saw Gillis in the front yard beating ruthlessly on some garbage cans in the street. This was just a minor expectation of what he would soon become a monster that many people remember to this day. During 2004, his first degree murder trial was staying to Dawn Bennett Johnson. His mother, Yossi, testified that her son was well-behaved and well-adjusted child with good grades, healthy social life, and many other things. The penalty phrase for the trial while testifying for the defense, Smoke quoted, "I used to call my little blue-eyed angel. This was the person I loved most in the world." His rap sheet began in 1980 when he was 17 years old with minor infractions. Throughout the years, he was arrested for traffic occasions and other crimes, like small crimes. Years later, he was arrested for some of his murders. A friend of his victims wrote to him. A friend of one of his victims wrote to him. She turned in the letters over to prosecution, and some grievous words made it into the news. In the letter, Gillis expressed remorse for some of the devious acts he would commit, particularly regretting his mutilating of the bodies, which I'm about to tell you about. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the murders. Gillis once claimed he began killing of stress. His first murder, which he confessed to after his arrest, was of an 82-year-old Anne Bryan in March of 1994. He intended to rape her, but became frightened when she screamed and as he touched her. To stop her screaming, Gillis slit her throat with a knife and stabbed her 50 times. He left her body in her residence, St. James Place. In May of 1999, Gillis began stalking a woman he had seen jogging in the South Baton Rouge area. He spent 3 weeks driving around the area looking for her. Around 5:30 a.m. on May 30th, 1999, a Sunday, he saw the 52-year-old Hardy jogging on Quadru Run Drive. 2 days later, her body was found in the bayou off of Highway 61 in St. James Parish. Gillis later confessed that he hit cement with his car, knocking her into a ditch. He got out and placed heavy-duty wire, or presumably zip ties. He placed it over her throat and neck and began to do this until ultimately she would, fall and die. Then, after killing her, he put her nude corpse into the trunk of his car, a white Chevy Cavalier, and left there until dumping it 2 days later. Gillis would go on to kill for 5 more years, murders unconnected, and his presence unknown for law enforcement. More attention was paid to another serial killer who, at the time, was the name of Derek Todd Lee, who was nicknamed the Peeping Tom, who murdered 7 women. During that time, he actually started way before Vincent, and ended around his murders reign around the time Vincent was caught, which ultimately started Vincent's murderous reign. So most of the media was paid attention to Derek Todd Lee after he was apprehended on May 27, 2003. When certain cases could not be linked to Lee, investigators began to wonder if another serial killer had been in operation at the same time. Though Lee began his killing in 1992, between 1994 Gillis began his murders, and in 2003 there were 2 serial killers silently and secretly targeting women in, around, or just outside the Baton Rouge area. Donna Benton Johnson, 43 years old, was Ginson's 8th and final victim. In February of 2004, she was raped, strangled with a Newton tie wrap. After death, Gillis mutilated her body, slashing her breast, cutting off her left nipple, gouging out a tattoo on her right thigh, and severing her arm at the elbow. Her body was found on February 24th, 2004, in a deranged carnal near Baton Rouge Road, south of Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. In letters exchanged between Gillis and a decade-long friend of Johnson's, Timothy Perola, Gillis explains her murder and even shows remorse. She was so, as he stated in a letter, he stated this: "She was so drunk, it only took a minute and a half to succumb to unconsciousness and then death. Honestly, her last words were, 'I cannot breathe.' I still puzzle over the last memorial, dismembering and cutting. There must be something deep in my subconscious that really needs that kind of reveres action." Tim Lupita, who died in 2005 of complication of AIDS, turned all the letters to prosecutors, and they were used in Ginson's trials in 2008. After his arrest, police found 45 digital pictures downloaded into the computer of Johnson's mutilated body, as well as photos of her corpse in the trunk of his car. Many other photos were found of other victims, some of which were used as various trials of first-degree murder. In the end, Gillis brutally raped and murdered 8 women. He kept body parts in his home as souvenirs and photos to simulate him as he remembered the murders. In April of 2004, tire tracks found near the body of Donna Bennett Johnson was used to track Gillis down. The tracks were from a unique set of tires, and the Louisiana State Crime Lab was able to determine the brand, model, and type of tire. They were able to narrow it down further when they found his particular tire was only manufactured in a 3-year period, which ended in 2003. Only 90 purchases of the tire had been made in the Baton Rouge area. Soon after obtaining a DNA swab of Gillis and matching it to the evidence found on some of Gillis' bodies, authorities arrested Gillis on April 29, 2004. He was then charged with various crimes at the swab of Gillis, matching it of some of his other murders. Different times he's also worked with investigators to find information on the other murders he committed. Intently, he was arrested and charged with the murders of Catherine Hall, who was murdered in 1999, Jenny Mae Williams, who was murdered in October of 2003, and 5 months later, the murder of Donna Bennett Johnson. He stood trial for 3 crimes on July 21st, 2008, and was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison after its jury delocked in the penalty phase. Previous year, he pled guilty to second-degree murder and was convicted of killing 36-year-old Joyce Williams. Gillis was currently incarcerated at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. So that's going to be it for this case. So I hope you enjoyed this case. You can find the victims. I'll even post pictures of them along with other victims as well that he had murdered. He was believed to have murdered several people, and so with his second at first believed victim, he removed her hands, and to this day they still have never found her hands. Even after almost 20 years, they've still never found her hands. The investigators do not know where her hands are, but evidently from his obsession, he, along with other serial killers, has a mark, and that mark was to take skin off of his victims and mutilate his victims right before he would sexually assault their dead bodies in a sick and grotesque way for power and control. That'll do it all for today. You can also go check out other documentaries and learn more about the case of Sean Vincent Gillis and also some other documentaries that might help to try to explore why he became such a prolific serial killer. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm also going to make a video on Tuesday about 2 killers who operated in national parks just a decade shy. So be on the lookout for that one. It's going to become a surprise. So anyways, I'll see you. Stay safe, and I'll do. Bye.